I call to order the September 17th, 2025 meeting of the Needham Finance Committee. We are meeting in hybrid fashion. We have 7 of us here in person, and I'm pretty sure that Tina's away, but we have a quorum. We will begin the meeting, which is being recorded on Zoom, and people are available to view it and also speak when and as appropriate. As we do with all our meetings, the first order of our business is to see if there are any citizens either here in the room or on Zoom who would like to address the Finance Committee. Seeing none, we will move to the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. It was 2 weeks ago on September 3rd. They've been put out for review and comment. I know Barry Eagle-Eye had a couple things, which was great that we went over today with Molly, and those changes have been made. Anyone else have anything on the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion for their acceptance.
I'll move their approval.
A second.
Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They're passed. Okay, we're gonna turn to our discussion on the special town meeting warrants. Right now, the warrant is in the draft form. So we'll be speaking to the draft articles as they've been presented to us. And we are actually going to go out of order a little bit to jump to article number 13, which is to amend the general bylaw for stormwater. And that will be presented to us by the Stormwater Bylaw Committee, which in itself, I think, is going to call their committee to order for the meeting, and then will present to us the warrant article.
John, right. All right. Good evening. I'm Kevin Keane. I'm Chair of the Stormwater Bylaw Working Group. I'm going to call the committee to order, and we'll do a quick roll call. John Salo. Here. Josh Levy. Here. Sue Barber.
Here.
Tom Ryder.
Here.
Deb Anderson.
Here.
Joe Pondek. He's coming.
Got my way.
Going away. All right. And Kim Donovan is here too. You want to come up? All right, very good. Okay, here's what I want to give you a quick overview of this bylaw, and then we'll open up the questions. So, Article 13 is seeking to replace the town's existing stormwater bylaw with a new one. Of the water quality and quantity set of all the ponds of the town, this one is dealing with the slights concerning construction permits and how the building department and the engineering department manage standards and procedures so that contractors meet modern criteria and advance mandated goals of stormwater quality and quantity. This is not a drainage law bylaw, it's a construction permit bylaw. So for context, this is why we're doing it. The existing bylaw has a number of flaws. It has limited scope, weak enforcement and accountability, inadequate triggers review, lack of clarity in organization, insufficient design and submission guidelines, and no regulations. Other than that, it's really good. But after the August 8th high-intensity rain event, the DPW with the select board conducted 25 neighborhood meetings to discuss impacts, and many homeowners asked, why was my home allowed to be built? It was a good question. And this bylaw is an outgrowth of some of those conversations. We owe it to our residents to make our permitting aligned with modern regulatory and engineering practices. And this bylaw will not solve flooding, doesn't make it go away, but it will increase resiliency and allow the town to fulfill its EPA, NIPDES, and MS4 permit. There are several significant elements I want to go through quickly. This has revised structure and a revised table of contents. It's easier to read, more is clearer, and it better aligns with best practices. It increases infiltration requirements. It has new covered activities, so we'll capture more activities. It had included illicit discharge detection and elimination. The permitting process is more thoughtful and provides for better information. All activities subject to the bylaw must include stormwater management and erosion control provisions, including a plot plan, which provides improved and better information, soil testing and construction period protective measures. The post-construction includes SCMs, that's stormwater control measure, in place to provide minimum volumetric capacities to recharge at least 1.5 inches of rainfall. That's up by half an inch. Operation and maintenance planning, OMP, is also included. Many homes have SCMs, just in that term, and they need an OPM. This would be put in with the registry of deeds, so new homeowners understand exactly what's on their property. It also is a future mechanism for the town to capture credits with the EPA. As-built drawings will also be done at the end to make sure that plot plans were actually executed. And the design criteria for this bylaw has changed. For building additions, increasing impervious surface by 25 to 50% infiltration is required. For projects increasing the impervious footprint more than 50%, infiltration is required for the entire impervious area, including the addition and the existing structure. For properties with less than or at 4,000 square feet of impervious surface, 1/2 inches of capture is required for footprint of building. For properties over 4,000, 1/2 inches of capture is for all surfaces. For each infiltration chamber, 3 2.5-inch caliber trees shall be planted on the project property, and erosion settlement controls must be designed to prevent adverse effects to abutters. The standard is that you don't have to fix a problem, but you can't make it worse. Then, based on that, that's the highlights of the bylaw. Any questions? Yes.
So how large will the department be that will regulate this bylaw?
So this is out of the building and engineering department. It's an excellent question. We anticipate, based on what they talked about, the thoughts is that there's a 30% increase in capture of permitting, which would be about an extra 42 permits per year, which we think would be about 10 hours of analysis required by the staff per year.
10.5.
10 hours per year. Extra workload per year. And the similar, I think, for building, of course, they have their inspections like they or the frame inspections, they anticipate 30%, which would be about 40% of any new permits. Perhaps the thing would be a 16-hour increase over the year. And we don't want to be kicked, but to be honest, these are guesses. We anticipate that. We're guessing 30%. Seems like easy.
I guess
So
it
that's-
can be handled within the current
Yes,
workload,
yes.
so that we don't need an extra FTE or 0.1 FTE or 0.8.
Right. No,
I'm still trying to see what a 0.1 looks
Right.
like.
Yeah, our expectations are absorbed into the permitting process that we have.
Does Joe agree with you?
Yes, well, Joe Pondex, yes.
Sorry I'm late, little traffic.
That's all right.
I didn't expect, I agree with the numbers that we're projecting, certainly, it's all tentative. So as I said last night, the crystal ball is kind of fuzzy on this one, but it does appear that, we should be able to absorb it. The beginning will be more difficult, as we get used to the regulation, used to implementing it, as the builders get used to adjusting to it. So in the very beginning, there's gonna be a steeper curve, but that should level out and even off as time goes by.
My gut feeling is that we will be advertising this a lot more, having some meetings with the builders, so they understand as there's that's all they really want is they want to know what they're required to do. And it doesn't go back and forth. So when the last bylaw was adopted, there was so much confusion on like, what are they supposed to do? What, I have more than 4,000 square feet of impervious area. What am I required to do? And it wasn't clear in bylaw. So making the clarity and bringing this in, educating upfront, I'm thinking that will go a lot smoother.
Have the builders been involved in this at all?
We had, Prepace and, Weston.
Impressive, he's realtor, and overall, their sense was, yeah, this is fine, it's good.
I might just sort of add. I worked as a consulting engineer for 40 years on water infrastructure projects. Not specifically here in Needham, but across the country, and I think I'm agreeing with our building member of our committee who said the most important thing from his standpoint is really having very clear and consistent requirements, and then he can follow through. It's when it's confusing, which the current bylaw is. So I think there's going to be some traction gained just by having a bylaw that's clearer. Builders will really be able to execute more effectively.
So can we go back to the staffing just for a second? We had talked last year that we were behind in inspections, and I think it was because we didn't have enough inspectors and there was a backlog, and we talked about potentially would we need more people to do that. So I'm a little surprised that we're adding more work here and still saying that there's no impact.
Yes, nothing's on your memory. You did talk about that, the budget is increased for an extra FTE.
Right, we added.
Yeah, we made a change.
did add that to the
So it did
budget.
go up, and yes, and
And
we
it's
feel
gonna include that.
that won't,
But-
now, right now, you haven't filled that spot, so
Fill that spot.
everyone's feeling pain over there.
So, and you're talking about an increase in the number of permits because more new homes are gonna potentially, or.
No,
homes are-
not necessarily new homes, but more capture of stuff, but this is these street permits of, if someone's putting in, this is also earth moving, if someone's putting in a tennis court, pickleball court, an action court.
Okay, so just any type of activity, there'll be more things that trigger it. What about homes that already, or other projects that are already triggering it? Is there an increase expected in the amount of work, or it's just a change in the process? So the numbers, or the 10.5 and 16.5 hours, are those only on the new permits, or are you also accounting for the increased work that you're gonna have to process new permits? Are there more requirements that you have to look at? Et cetera, et cetera?
I think we included the extension of the review time as well.
Okay.
So just to be clear, this only is for any new projects on a piece of property. It's not retroactive to anything that's been done. And just roughly, if you want to think about a tear down new home that gets built, how much added cost on average do you expect that to be? Not that, I'm just curious.
We did talk about that, and I think there is issues of design complexity. A lot of this is going to go before, you're a surveyor and you're gonna have an engineer on this. But I think all houses are going to complexity of fulfilling NIPD's requirements are going to require it. This is another level of complexity. Construction costs is gonna be, infiltration units are gonna be required. We're capturing more site layout constraints may play into it, will change the equation as they figure it out. Maintenance obligations for homeowners to take care of the SDMs. And timelines there will be an extra review, in fact, added in for the SDMs with the
So
infiltration.
is it less than 5%, 2%, 1%? Of the cost of a project, I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
right. When we discussed it last night, the guideline is, so the difference is between the current 1 inch that's required to be infiltrated and the proposed 1.5 inches. And so that differential, the 1/2 inch amounts to 1 additional chamber per 1,000 square feet of footprint. of the building. Yeah, impervious area. So,
And chamber retails for,
$1,000.
I guess the other way to look at it is part of your work, did you do like a pro forma or a model and say, okay, this is a house that just came in to get permitted, and under the current bylaws, this is what has to take place. Under this new bylaw, this is what is gonna have to take place. Whether it's an extra chamber, whether it's whatever the extras are, to sort of model it out and say that, on a pro forma basis, whether you do it by percentage or whether you do it by other types of measures, what is the builder gonna face when they are presented with these new bylaws? So, we can know You know, because for example, if it was a 25% more cost for a builder and then also for the town, you know, that's significant, right? If it's 1%, that's different. So has there been any type of modeling or any type of pro formas done just to kind of give a sense of what the difference, you know, potentially could be?
It's mostly done on a comparative basis to other towns. So to look at what their regulations are, we use, Weston and Natick as comparator, bylaws. And in some cases, their requirements are greater than this. And so we felt that it was certainly not excessive. It did not exceed what comparator communities are doing. And so in terms of the incremental cost, it wasn't in terms of the cost of construction and constructing an entire house, but it was in terms of what is the incremental cost of a unit, you know, a chamber that would have to be built, or the time that a builder, commissioner or an inspector would have to be out in the field.
Right. And the
Or more
engineer-
more engineering costs than you're gonna,
Yeah.
you're gonna need an engineer to do this, to do a plan to get approved by you, Tom, for example,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't have before. So there's those sort of soft costs
Right.
in addition to hard costs.
But those engineering, like analysis, will provide far more information for you to do a better analysis. So we're not at a point where people wonder, why was my house built to flood? So it improves the product. And I think will also ultimately save the town, because we spend 10 million on, nifties every year on projects like that. So this is actually helps us now measure that. We can measure it and hopefully get something forward, moving forward with EPA. Yes.
I would also add that, you know, a lot of, the majority of our construction is new single-family homes, and it's kind of hard to judge because every home is different. You know, a lot of what we're requiring in the bylaw is already in place. We're just requiring bigger systems and a little bit more engineering. Many of the homes that come across our desk now already have the engineer designing the system. So that engineer will just have to do a little more work. And then the system will have to be a little bigger. So we're not starting from scratch. We're just taking what's already in existence, and a lot of what is already happening is just making it a little bit, the system's a little larger and the engineering a little more complex. On average, I would estimate you're adding, and this is just an estimation, you know, from my own experience, an estimation of adding maybe $3,000 to $5,000 in the cost of a new home.
Okay.
And most of these new homes are running $1 million plus.
Is there any, like, anything in an existing home that would trigger this bylaw? I mean, other than,
Yeah, in addition, if they do.
so any addition, a
Or if you
driveway,
connect into, if you want to connect to the town's drainage system, that's gonna trigger, that's gonna trigger bylaws.
Or if you put in a sports court,
Mhm.
but 25%, I think, did we settle, we
Yeah.
settled on that number. If the addition is over 25% of the existing home, then you'll have to, provide, on-site storage.
So then your estimate of the additional workload associated with this bylaw of 10.5 hours, that's for the 42 new homes that are built? Does it factor in the small additions, which there seem to be a lot of those?
Yeah,
I think the 42 is mainly the events that aren't currently permitted. So like the tennis courts, you don't need a permit right now to build a tennis court. Under this, you'd have to, go make sure your stormwater is there. So the existing homes that are being built already go through the permitting process. And so the incremental would only be, any extra time required for inspections.
Do additions go through permitting process right now?
Oh, yeah.
They do, okay. The per stormwater.
they will.
Yes.
They will with
But do they-
this bylaw.
Do they know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
if they
currently do also.
25%, yes, they do.
Okay.
They have to get building permit first.
Can I ask about the cost to the town on capital projects? Are we gonna be required to follow these new, like, Pollard? Is the, what, are we looking at in terms of impact of where we are now versus what we might see from a cost perspective?
My feeling is that we're gonna have to do beyond that for most of the town projects.
Beyond what's in here,
Yeah,
and we would anyways.
yeah, every project that we're gonna be preparing going forward, we're gonna have to add a component of drainage in order to meet the capacity issues we have in town. and our phosphorus. So we're gonna have to, if we're doing a drainage project, we're gonna have to add a little bit more. If we're doing a water line project, we're gonna have to add a little bit more. Have to see where we
So our
can.
threshold is typically higher.
It's
than
gonna be
what's in
higher.
here.
It is,
And like the pickleball courts or action sport, like we would be going beyond what is required in this anyways.
for the pickleball courts right now.
No, like I'm just thinking about future capital projects that might trigger this.
Oh, like the tennis courts.
Oh,
high
our
school.
Yeah.
All
or
right,
even
in that
like tennis
case,
courts, Yeah.
Yeah,
We were arranging.
yeah, so we had a design that pretty much took up the whole underneath the parking lot of the high school. So we went beyond, make sure that we have, because we heard people say that there is flooding issues, and we're trying to capture it as much as we can. So,
So no, you're not anticipating any additional capital costs that we wouldn't already be incurring. This is not going to impact this. For the
that's not
town.
good. We have a,
Not because of
We
this
have-
bylaw.
no, because of
The bylaw is not going to.
We, at the public hearing, for instance, there were many questions and concerns about, flooding the streets and, expanding pipes. That's not triggered by this bylaw, and that, if we pursue those would be separate capital projects.
That's another problem,
Right, this
part
is-
of the water
This is,
quality.
like Kevin started off by saying, this is all about permitting.
It's just this lights, right?
Right.
We're just talking about permitting, so it's not about anything else.
It's not about improvements, it's not about,
Those are other
fixing
projects.
roads and other types
Those
of
are
things
other
like that.
And this is just really residential construction permitting, pretty
Overall,
much,
yeah.
right?
Yes, and the people really it will affect are builders and contractors.
Yeah, if we do have for example, there's a, project coming up on Island Avenue, the new, 50,000 square foot office building. They will have to, depending on, when they get their application in, they would have to either comply with today's bylaw or the future bylaw. So, but we don't have a lot of new commercial buildings being built, or even new commercial buildings being added on to that would trigger the bylaw. Most of their stuff is, most of our commercial stock right now is, they focus on interior renovation. So the majority of this work, again, will fall on the residential portions, residential applications. We don't know what we're gonna, with the new MBTA zoning, sure, there'll be a few projects coming on that. They will have to comply. But again, the majority is our residential homes, which that market still seems pretty strong.
yeah, this will trigger the single family homes under 5 lots. The bylaw, rather.
So when was the public hearing?
August 5th.
August fifth, okay, and,
Oh.
can you just,
Sorry, two things. No, we had a public listening session August 5th, where select board is having a separate hearing next Wednesday, week from today. So there'll be two.
was there, discussion from builders or the people who are gonna be affected by this, that you guys heard?
No, there weren't builders present.
Most of the questions that night was about the drainage system. not
Yes,
about the
yes,
stormwater
many people
bylaw.
think, oh, this is drainage, it's like drainage.
But
Permit.
it's permitting to go into a town drainage system at some point. It gets.
Actually, no, it's actually more about infiltration, so we want to capture water, 1.5 inches, and it should go into the ground and basically into the groundwater. We don't necessarily need it to go
Right.
into the drains. But if it does, it's gone through earth, so we're solved our phosphorus problem.
You're trying to just increase the new permitting process is requiring additional capture and mechanisms for whoever is doing a project so that we're not impacting our own drainage system as much.
Right.
Right? So
Correct.
it's not just about permitting. You are increasing the requirements on any new construction or new project.
That's what the permit.
Well,
Right.
in order to get the permit.
In order to get
And
the
actually,
permit.
yes, and the
Right.
permit is the lever which we can.
I mean, it's a positive impact because whatever overflow loads off of roofs can be captured on site.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Understood.
that much less it has to go.
No, I understand that part, but I think it's, you just kind of put it in perspective and say, okay, well, it's a good Paul, 240,000 square foot building, right, 240,000 square foot roof.
Yeah.
Basically, you're saying all that water that hits that roof has to come down and stay at the Pollard site. So in the design of it, you're gonna need to have all the requisite infiltration basins and all the types of design on the Pollard site so that that water that hits the roof and comes down stays at the site instead of going on to Dedham Avenue or to Harris Avenue or to other places where it comes into our drainage system. It's like how it's gonna be captured initially on the Pollard site.
And just to be
Right,
precise,
and that's
it's the first
essentially-
1.5 inches we actually are worried about. That's the equation. Other towns do 2 inches, some do more, Watertown does 8.
For, for public school, they still have to show that because it's a large area, they have to show that their post-development flows off-site, but do not exceed the pre. So that 1.5 inches may be maybe a lot more than 1.5 inches, maybe 4 inches. Who knows? So,
And that would have to happen today. I mean, they'll have to comply with the bylaw today if they would have permitted today.
not just the bylaw, but the stormwater.
Right.
That's just policy
That's-
for it, which is pre and post conditions. for review.
One other question, if I may, there's a maintenance compliance component to this as well.
Mhm.
And do you feel that that will be done by the building department as well?
No.
Right? Or how will that work?
So there'll be an OMP, which is, basically, the issue is that these things are being built. People buy the house, they don't know it's there. They sell the house, the new owners don't know it's there. The mechanism is put in with the registry of deeds, tie it to that. So when new owners come along, they say, here's a sheet, this is report what you have, and this is where it is on your property, and you should maintain it. So that's the working plan. So that's what this will do.
So it's on the homeowner.
So it's, okay, so there's no compliance after it's built. In a way, I mean,
No, presently, no. No, in the future, there could be a mechanism, like we know this is out there, these people should, do they clean them out? I don't, they should.
Is there an opportunity to get stormwater credit for,
Right.
in the future?
In the future, if
If
there's a
you,
system.
if
to
you're
do
doing,
it.
if you're maintaining your system, you get a credit.
If someone builds a swale or a rain guard on the property, which is a suitable solution, if you can't do infiltration there. That has to be maintained as well. You can't let that sit there.
And so what's the enforcement mechanism?
yeah,
Is there an enforcement mechanism for that?
Right now, it's,
We're not intended, the bylaw is not intended to have an enforcement mechanism or enforcement arm of that. That part of the bylaw. But we feel that putting it into the registry of deeds will at least, like Kevin says, alert homeowners and let people know that they have this system on their property.
but it's not as if I buy a house, I have the system on the property. I have no idea if it's compliant or not or working.
well, actually, so the next thing with this bylaw will accompany is a set of regulations. And regulations are being written in the regs. We do have a draft of that ready on Friday. And it does actually talk about that, would there be some system that what's on the deeds, when was this last maintained, when was it installed, and what should people do? So that there is a mechanism that can be sort of built out. If it's in the regulations, that can be easily changed rather than a bylaw, which just go for town meeting. Regulations can be done by the select board on the advice of engineering and building. So as that comes along, we can certainly adapt, and that gives us ultimate flexibility to make a system that works very well.
So on what's recorded at the registry, is it the contemplation that you're not gonna get a final certificate of occupancy or whatever the final sign off until you, as the builder or the homeowner, show and prove that you recorded it at the registry of deeds?
Yes,
So you're not gonna get your TC, that's in a sense, that's kind of an enforcement right then and there, is you're not gonna get your final approval from the town unless you say, hey, this is what I recorded at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds.
Right, but the way that works in the electronic system is the builder simply uploads the document to their permit application, and then we get a trigger. Okay, did they upload that, before we schedule a final inspection or the occupancy inspection? It's a simple, go in and look, is it there? Yes, it is. Check box. It's not a long and tedious process on that part.
I have 2 questions,
Yeah.
Kevin. One, we talked about the cost, but what about the impact on the time to build? So is there a permitting time, before a project can get kicked off? Have you thought
Yeah,
about
you
what
speak
that
to
or
that?
discussed what that would be?
We try to review things within 48 hours, pending.
So you don't anticipate this
Yeah.
permit adding
So
weeks or
our
more
engineer-
months to when a building could
I
otherwise
want to
get
avoid
started?
that at all costs,
Yeah.
so. I don't want to kick back and forth or, angry people come in. I want to be able to do a thorough review and get it going. It does go to the building department first and then it sends out to us. So there is, do you guys have a few days? We have a few days.
Yeah, our review is typically longer. Under the building code, we have 30 days to review and either approve or disapprove applications. We rarely go that long. Sometimes when we're shorthanded or people on vacation, it might go 2 weeks, but usually we turn permits over or turn that initial review over within a week or 10 days. And we do a cursory review of stormwater submittal. But the technical details we leave to the engineers. So when it's kicked over to Tom's department, they usually sign off within the electronic system, like he said, within a day or two.
And the delays we have right
They're
now-
already doing that review on the stormwater, so it's a little more complicated. It's not another step.
And the delays that go back and forth right now are because of how unclear it is. I have more than 4,000 square feet. What do I have to do?
Yeah.
And so then it goes back and forth, so.
So unless there's a situation where you mentioned that a site engineer plan, the engineering plan may need to change, which obviously has a major impact. Other than that, it's just part of the regular process you're already going through now.
Yeah.
For the most part. Okay.
So before this, it was in place, if people have their own infiltration systems, are they recorded anywhere? So you don't have any record of them. So in that case, for example, a house turns over that has an existing system that predates this, it wouldn't necessarily have to go through that process. So it really is starting whenever this gets passed. For the number of projects, on average, a year is what, Joe? You have between new permits for new homes and renovations, about a year.
Kim knows.
What?
Kim knows.
Kim knows.
We have about 900 permits per year for building.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, but a lot of those are roofing.
But that's all
Right.
building that include gas.
So
plumbing, and
what has been
well.
triggered for stormwater over the last year has been about 100 or so.
Okay. So it was literally like 1% of the homes per year in essence. As time goes on, we'll.
Yeah.
But you'd expect more to be triggered as a result of this.
Yeah.
So you're saying 100 were triggered last year and you're expecting another 42, so like 50%.
more. I think 30% more. Even to go up,
But-
yeah.
They just obviously don't take a lot of time now. Right.
20 minutes a piece.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would also say.
So he gets a stack in the morning, he reviews through the morning, and then he goes out and does his inspections, so every morning. That's all.
So it doesn't have to be inspected or it's not a laborious process in order to process these.
So there's gonna be an inspection component, and so, building department, engineering, will have to, work out.
But there
those
already
details.
is an inspection that they do.
No,
No, that's one of the things that's lacking in the bylaw. There was no clear point at which these systems being installed got inspected. So that's something that isn't
So is that included in the tenant, the additional inspections that will now be required on the
yeah.
100 plus the 30% increase? And you're still only expecting a 10.5 because
There's two parts here. There's the review and then there's the inspection. So the majority of the review will be done by engineering. The majority of the inspections will be done by my office.
Got it, okay.
So there's
Separate
not really, it's done separately. So out of the 5 to 7 inspections we do on a new home, we'll be adding one more. It's about a 15 and 20-minute inspection.
Nope, that he just answered.
Do you have anything?
No, I think I'm good. There's that.
I had
I think stormwater is definitely important. I had a few questions on the language that's in the proposed bylaw. Just again, the questions are really around the strength of the bylaw. In the definitions, you have a definition of a qualified soil evaluator.
We just discussed that last night.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, Mike, in the draft I have, it starts with a professional who has demonstrated the necessary experience. Who defines that? The builder? Like, it seems
We
too,
actually just changed that last night. You guys put that.
Yes.
okay,
So they have
Glad
to be
we're thinking-
demonstrated to the permitting authority.
okay,
And they do have their discretion on what they think is, you know, the experience required, but.
okay,
And typically, soil engineers, geotechnical engineers who are often involved in construction projects are already qualified, so we know that.
okay.
But then there are the separate soil evaluators that could also be.
So there's soil evaluated licenses and, that's for Title V for septic systems.
Mhm.
And, my feeling is that, there's a lot of qualified teachers that teach the class that cannot be ever a soil evaluator. So it doesn't make sense that they cannot do a stormwater system. This is not sanitary conditions. This is more determined where groundwater is and the type of materials there are. And then, and knowing how to use the tables. So,
Okay.
Well, it's a good question, because it does come with Concom. Some people do show up and say, I dig my own dirt, and I saw dirt. down there."
Unqualified, yeah,
Right.
right.
No, you know,
Right. Okay, second question is, I was looking at the administration section. What about projects that are Dover Amendment? Do they have to follow this bylaw?
Yeah.
This is in the general bylaws, so Dover amendment is exclusive to zoning. Sorry, zoning, not general bylaw.
And any conditions that are imposed as part of the permitting process stormwater conditions cannot be circumvented through the Dover Amendment?
Correct. Just like Conservation Commission regulations cannot be circumvented by Dover.
All right, so to be clear, if a builder says that to do this stormwater is excessive cost to my project, my Dover Amendment project, they're still bound to meet these regulations.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. No question on that.
Okay. And then I think my last question. Well, I have two other questions. So we talked about that operation and maintenance plan. So it
Yeah.
sounds like I guess it seems like the maintenance could be made available upon request by made available to the DPW upon request. Is there any thought of a fee or a penalty if upon request they're not provided because they haven't done the annual maintenance, they haven't kept the records? And this really gets into a bigger question on enforcement, like a lot of the enforcement are written orders. And I'm looking to see if there's financial penalties paid to the town if they don't comply with the regulations.
Yeah, there should be, there's a fee schedule in the general bylaw, I believe, that covers, so typical enforcement involves, first to write a letter and say, here's what you found wrong, you need to comply. Give them an opportunity to comply. If they continue to refuse, then we start imposing the penalties and if absolutely necessary, town council could get involved and initiate a court action, but we would, of course, hope to avoid that at all costs.
my gut feeling is that, if the resident is looking to get another permit, another addition, another conservation, we'll be saying, we need your O and M. And then if they don't supply it, then it's like, we're not gonna issue the permit until you get your O and M.
Yeah, I hear you. I certainly would like to see like more financial penalties. I feel like it would give it a little bit more teeth versus saying, oh, you don't have it? Give me a week, I'll go get it, filled out and submit it, and then it's all said and done. I mean, in the meantime, you know, this could have been contributing to stormwater problems. So that's just, I guess, a suggestion over time, you know, on the enforcement section, if there's ways to make it more
So
financial to the builder or owner who's responsible.
we don't mention it explicitly in the bylaw, but NGL, was chapter 83, section 10 allows for civil penalties up to $5,000 for violation of rules or regulations related to stormwater. So, I mean, that seems very steep to me.
Yeah.
But I think the tools are available if we wanted to use them.
Okay. Just in comparison, like we list out penalties for dog licenses, but we don't list out penalties for stormwater violations. I'll leave it at that. I feel like it's an important bylaw to make sure we can enforce it.
So has the select board, acted on this yet? So, my procedure is that the proponents of the article needs to vote on it first before we can.
Good idea.
Because I think that's, the people we need to know what they voted on before we can, approve, vote.
Thank you for fitting us in, because we
Yeah.
know your schedule.
Before we can recommend it. So when is that gonna take place, kind of?
Next meeting is 20.
That's our next meeting too, and then we're not meeting until October 8th after that, because the following was a Jewish holiday, so. I suggest that we put this on for a vote on October 8th, so we'll know what the select board.
Sure.
And the outcome of that hearing. Will there be anything done about Joe's suggestion about enforcement or penalties between now and what you're gonna present to the select board? Or is this what it is?
I don't think we're gonna have anything. I mean, we do have regulations that we're gonna review tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So there's a potential we could discuss it then, but.
We'll discuss it.
Yeah, yes, I'd like to discuss
Which
that.
one more meeting?
Yeah.
We need all the time.
And even perhaps if you're not at a point where you would know exactly what the fines would be, and maybe a reference to what you had said, Josh, that penalty,
Right.
enforcement penalties are available up to $5,000 per the even language such as that.
Yeah, because you do such a great job. I'm not trying to diminish what the work, but you get to the enforcement section, it's like, really? And there's so much good work that goes into it, and it's like, all right, well, how are we gonna make this work? And so I think I would suggest that you look at that and maybe just make some references to what the general laws allows you to do or types of things, but just, I would, see if there's a way to potentially beef up that section. Because the importance of it is obviously goes with that section.
No, I think it's a great proposed bylaw. These guys did a great job.
Yeah, no,
It's really tremendous.
it's gonna be a benefit for the town, so we thank you for that.
And I think that's an excellent comment.
Okay.
Anything else? I have to
Yeah.
unroll all of them. All right. To adjourn the stormwater working group, John Salo,
Yes.
Josh Levy.
Yes.
Sue Barber,
Yes.
Tom Ryder.
Yes.
Deb Anderson.
Yeah.
Bill Conlon.
Yeah.
And I vote. All right, we adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Okay, next on our agenda is, we're gonna go, the beginning of the warrant, they go to Article 1. Collective bargaining, police superior officer.
Chairman, town and the Police Superior Officers Association. And if you don't mind, if I can speak to both Article 1 and 2 at the same time. And Article 2, the needed police union, we reached agreement for 1-year contract, which is for fiscal 2026. It's a 3% increase in the base wages and a change in private detail rate. No language changes, no other compensation changes. With this agreement, it's consistent with what we've reached with settlements with most other unions for 2026. These are the last two unions that don't have agreements in for FY 26. And the funding source will be from the classification, performance and settlements line of fund, which would be transferred by the town manager on approval by town meeting. The the additional cost for the superior officer's contract is $18,009, which is 3% more than what's currently appropriated for that group. And in the case of the police union, the additional amount that will be transferred is $156,795, which is 2.9%. Of course, the obvious question, well, it's a 3% raise. How can it be 2.9% increase? Well, because it's just the base wages. There's other compensation that officers receive and that are budgeted that are not changing. So when you take the total budget for police officers and sergeants, the $156,795 represents 2.9%.
Dave, on the private detail and town detail rate being changed to 68 and 61, what are they currently?
They are, I believe they are two.
Just change them, so I only have the new numbers in my head.
62. The town detail rate is always $7 less than whatever the private detail rate is.
Dave, I know you, when you do the budget, the classifications line, I'm always put in what you think the raises are gonna be, or assumptions on raises. How does this compare to what?
It's, well, as I mentioned, it's consistent with what other unions had and,
That's what we budgeted for. I mean, I know
Yes.
it's transferred from one line item, but that line item had the
Yes.
same, had assumptions in it. Are these are the same assumptions in that
Yes,
sense?
they are.
Okay. Okay.
Why are the detail rates going up at such a higher percent? If they're going from 62 to 65?
It's been a few years since they were last changed and the rates are lower than many of the other areas.
Been competitive, that would be my next question. So we're bringing ourselves up to the surrounding.
The unions negotiated to get the rate up higher. And we reached an agreement that it would be at $68.
And do you know what the typical percent, or I don't know if it's too variable, of what somebody's overall pay is in terms of detail work versus base wage?
It's all over the place. There are some who might command almost $100,000 a year in details, and then others that would be like $680 for the year.
It's currently $60, or was $60.
60. Okay, so that's an even.
Yeah, even greater percentage.
Dave, excuse me, the detail rates, is that also only for a year, or is that just?
No, that's the new detail rate, which will stay into effect until whatever time that we negotiated a change in the rate.
So these.
They're evergreen.
Right,
The-
but how long will that be? I mean, how is that dictated, that you negotiate a detail rate change? Or is it?
It's until such a time that the contracted rate, I mean, it can be 10 years, it can be 1 year. It's all part of the collective bargaining process.
Okay.
These dollar amounts that you have listed in the impact, that's not including what the expected detail rate increase.
No, because there's no town cost to the prep detail rate that's paid by the private contractors that.
But what about the town detail rate?
That's built into the projects when we need them. That we pay the private detail rate to whatever it is. Private detail rate for the town, that is what what the officers would charge the town in Needham to do a private detail rate. If there are not police officers in Needham to do the detail, and you may have seen it, then another community.
Got
might come
it.
and do, and then we have to pay whatever rate they charge.
The town detail rate is not what we're paying for them to do a detail as part of their job.
Correct. And it's
Okay.
a project, for instance, a town road project that, there's a detail officer there. The
Got it.
rate is $61 an hour rather than $68.
Okay.
That Eversource would pay or.
Or it would
Well,
be as
Eversource would pay the private detail rate. This is a road project at the town of
so
Needham.
DPW, it would come out of the DPW or. whatever
Yes,
that's
correct.
okay.
So is there a reason why it's only 1 year and, sort of, and I know the sensitivity of negotiations and everything, but are there storm clouds out there, or is there a reason why you're not coming with, 2 years or a 3-year agreement?
One of the unions is going through some changes within their leadership and such. And we have a new town manager, and the parties understood probably best just to close out the books for FY 26, so we're in the year. And we're working to negotiate a successor contract, which hopefully will be for more, for 2 or 3 years.
And that's ongoing now.
And that's, it's a pause right now until the town meeting action, but it'll resume again.
So would the hope be that in May, at the annual town meeting, there might be one of these for FY 27, 28, or?
That is the hope,
The
but
hope, okay.
that's the, we have several contracts that are expire at the end of FY 26, so it would not be only the police union and the police superior, but also the fire union expires at the end of 26 as well. And the custodians union contract also expires in 26. So we have a number of contracts that we'll be negotiating, and hopefully some of them will settle in time for the annual town meeting.
And has this been approved by the select board yet?
Not the article, but the select board have executed the agreement, which makes it binding. The only thing that is not binding is the increase to the base wages. That doesn't happen until town meeting appropriates it, and it's retroactive back to July 1st.
Does this come out of free cash?
No, I think if Dave explained, and when you go in the budget, I think it's line 9, we set aside money for classifications for things that change during the year, anticipating agreements being made and things like that. So we've already appropriated the money. So let's just say we appropriated 500,000.
So this comes out of line 9.
18, exactly, this comes out of line 9. Line 9 will be less by these 2 amounts. This is what it is.
And this is all, and the detail rates will affect all projects moving forward, so no existing budgets are being.
Correct.
It's not a large dollar amount, but just out of curiosity, are there any other wage related costs that are impacted by this increase? So retirement plans, anything else that is an add-on that might be related to wage, so.
There's an incremental increase in Medicare, the town Medicare match.
Would they be captured in here, or would they be captured somewhere else?
They would be captured in the benefits budget. We don't budget in the individual departments. That's all centrally budgeted, townwide expense line. It's health insurance and Medicare, Social Security. They're not subject to Social Security in the town's pension, to the extent that this increases their earnings that can impact their pension.
So I think if the select board has signed these, that makes it a little bit different than the article before, that I think unless people want other information, I think we can consider acting on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so is there a motion with respect to Article 1?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve Article 1, relate to the Eden Police Ferry Officers Association Union Contract Settlement and the Police Union Contract Settlement in Article 2.
And so we'll make a motion both on Articles 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Your second for Barry's motion? Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, coming to a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a unanimous vote, and we recommend adoption of Articles 1 and 2. Now we move to Article 3. Infiltration and inflow, INI. And Gray is watching.
This is an appropriation, it's actually a payment the town has received from Children's Hospital, which was required as part of their permit in terms of removing, inflow and infiltration into the waste, into the sewer pipe, basically illegal connections and, stormwater runoff into the, sewer pipes. Which they have paid. What we need to do is appropriate the money so that the money will be used for the intended purpose. It's a study that will be done in town to what large new entities are responsible for when a new construction is required to remove from the sewer system their additional contribution into the sewer system. And if they can't do anything, then they have to make payment to the town, which is what they did. So the town can find other areas to remove I&I.
So is this like a
It's a
carbon credit related?
This has been on since the MWRA was created. It's
Okay.
just, we spend money, we have articles. They used to be every year. We've had a break, but they're gonna be resuming again.
So instead of them mitigating their own issues, they give you money and
To pay in terms, for the study, for us to identify where to make other reductions. I&I is a multi-million-dollar expenditures on the part of the town over years. It's capital, it's a capital intensive system, because unfortunately sewer pipes are always moving, the ground moves, that's developed. So that's one of the reasons sewer pipes need to be replaced over time. And when I'm talking about sewer pipes, I'm talking about the mains
right.
where the sewer is flowing, where eventually goes to Deer Island for treatment.
So just let me understand, do we currently have these funds?
Yes, we receive.
Where are they sitting? Are they in free cash? Where are they?
There a
sitting?
sewer receipt, that's, so when we say it's to be raised from the sewer
So it's already
receipt,
there.
it's sitting there.
Okay, and where is
into
it
ins-
going? Whose budget is it going to, or where?
It's a warrant article, it's a standalone warrant article.
So what do we do? So who spends it? Is it going to something we're just collecting?
Oh, no,
We're
no,
gonna-
this is a project, this is a study that's, going to be $132,000 to cost. And Children's is paying for it, but the way the statute was amended, town meeting needs to appropriate the money. It can't be spent by the town until it's been appropriated.
I get that part.
And it can only be spent for the purpose that they made the payment for. And the only way that's ensured and that we can show that is having the money appropriated for that purpose.
And so is that a study that's gonna be done by our DBW, or are we gonna hire a consultant?
It'll be a consultant. They'll be one of the engineering firms.
So this is sort of a step in the process for that.
Correct.
The
This
consultant.
inevitably will lead to a capital funding request.
Okay, and then at that point in time, they'll say 100, so much to come from this, so much to come from the 132,000 that was appropriated in the special town meeting.
No, this is the this is the appropriation. It is gonna be, if approved by town meeting, it will be expended in full. This won't be a funding source for something else. This is gonna do the study, which will be relied upon for future capital funding requests.
So to the extent that the study determines obviously that additional mediation will be required. That's the town's
Correct.
capital expenses.
Correct.
Children's Hospital is free.
Correct. This is part of our obligations because we, one, we have an obligation to remove INI from the system. Two, there are incentives because inflow and infiltration that gets into the sewer system is not from paying sources. So what it means is the higher sewer flow, the MWRA charges, they charge for everything that they received, whether it was sewer added to the system that a customer paid for. So when that happens, that means our sewer assessment is higher, which means your sewer bills are higher. So there is an incentive, an important incentive to keep maintaining your system in order to try to avoid avoidable expenses and avoidable.
But this
increases costs.
doesn't necessarily avoid or reduce the infiltration at all. It just gives us the money to study where we need to expand our
Which
system.
which pipes need to be replaced, or which areas there are
Right.
illegal hookups.
But it has nothing to do with like what we just discussed, which is, forcing homeowners for new projects to increase their infiltration capacity to avoid getting stuff, just what.
Well, this is to prevent infiltration, whereas the stormwater is looking to have infiltration. That they want the water to stay here.
Right.
This is to prevent groundwater, infiltration groundwater getting into the pipes
Right.
and then flowing into Deer Island. The other part is the inflow, which means that there's illegal hookups to the sewer system. And basically how they find those is usually through smoke tests, smoke with the sewer pipes, and then they'll be in the neighborhood, and if they see smoke coming through the stink pipe at a person's house, they know that there's an
Right.
illegal hookup.
And let me just, go back if I could. The $8 amount, 8 per gallon, was that set by the planning board or what was,
That was in consultation with the engineering department. I wasn't that.
back at the time, it was,
Back
that was what was determined as part of the special permit, right?
Correct.
So obviously Children's Hospital looked at it and said, okay, it's gonna cost us this or this. It was probably a better deal for them.
Correct.
To do the $8, right? And,
Well, there was a real problem. There was no INI because they had to actually test. There was no INI for them to remove with their connections. So that's why they had to, that's why they made the payment to the town.
I don't understand that, then why would they have to pay if they're not?
It's not, it's a state regulation. Every large project has to reduce the amount of.
No, that I understand.
But if there's nothing for them to reduce because the pipes because that's a new project, that whole area was rebuilt, there's nothing for them to fix. So they contribute to the town.
So they're not actually adding to the problem with this new building, is what you're saying?
Right.
But because of the laws, they have to.
They have to help reduce the capacity of the whole system, even if they're not the contributor.
Got it. Okay, I
And
misunderstood.
and this project is not specific to any problem they're causing. We're just
No,
taking the money
exactly.
that they're giving us and
Correct.
appropriating it to do other projects that we
Yes,
need to do.
to reduce INI.
Got
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought they were.
Yeah.
I was on the same way.
I thought they
Yeah.
were, this payment was in lieu of actually mitigating what they
Yeah,
were
that's
doing.
what,
right, you're right. I thought it was the suspicious mind was saying, that this is a better deal for them. Obviously that wasn't the case.
Are we all cynical?
We're the professional center.
Okay, any further questions or discussion points on this? I would entertain a motion on Article 3.
I'll make a motion as we recommend adoption of Article 3, appropriate administration in flow.
okay.
Any discussion, question or comment? Hearing none, coming to a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And now we move to Article 4, which I think is another one where we have the
Yeah.
funds, right? Dave?
Yes, we received, back in August, I believe, the hospital was required to make another payment. This is different from the 25,000 that we all talked about
Oh,
last year.
okay.
This is a new $25,000 payment. But a continuation of, an amendment to their special, permit, which, is requiring a, roadway safety audit, at Kendrick Street. And this is the cost to do that audit. And the 25,000 is to be expended by, the town with the engineers to do the study at the Kendrick and Fourth Avenue intersection.
I could save them the money and tell them it is a problem, we should
Yeah.
put a light there.
Well,
We already approved the study last time.
No, that was
for
a
different.
that was a different,
That was
yeah.
up-
That was up,
That was
that was the light
Like a
over,
block.
up a block, that was over the highway.
So is this just like the other one, that they're gonna do a study, they're gonna come back and say, yes, we need to do a light, then we have to pay for the light?
Correct.
Correct.
So, and the last time I think you told me it was like, a similar project might be $3 million or something.
No,
Is that-
no, 300,000,
No,
I think.
it
Three
wasn't.
hundred thousand.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that's a question. I mean, I think it's obvious that the light is needed. Can you just put you have this money go right to start with, into the design and say, let's get the design going?
These are all the required steps in order to, we just can't put traffic lights up. There's things that we have to prove to the state. That traffic
I'm
lights.
gonna go
or
get
that-
Governor Healy and have her come over.
You need a consultant, obviously.
Just get in a car with it, tell her to come by at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And we can't charge this to Children's for creating the traffic.
That's why they're paying the 25,000.
That's why they're paying.
They pay for
that's
the
their
study,
obligation.
but then they don't.
No,
pay for
they're-
the
They don't
light.
pay for the light.
Their traffic
No,
problem isn't the
It was not
problem.
a condition for them building.
I think Shark,
It's everyone coming out of those.
Shark
big
Ninja, Shark
apartments.
Ninja and TripAdvisor probably contribute a lot more to it than.
No, I think it's the two big apartments buildings.
Oh, that's true,
I
yeah.
think I think by far that's the biggest. That's
It's,
where those
it's
cars-
also people avoiding Needham Street
Oh, yeah.
since the bike lanes went up,
Yeah.
honestly. That's part of it. But it has nothing to do with this, so.
But this is a required step in order to, if it's determined that, traffic signals to be installed, there's various documentation, traffic counts on and all that data that has to be provided to the state in order to get approval to put a traffic signal in.
For big common sense.
Any further questions, or discussions that people want to have on Article, 4?
We're getting the money, we should spend it.
Is there a motion,
Sure.
with respect to Article 4?
I'll recommend adoption of Article 4. Appropriate for intersection improvement analysis,
I'll second.
Second by Paul, any discussion, question, or comment?
even though it's not needed.
Hearing none, coming to a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously as well. And now we go, Dave, to Article 6, and the FY 26 operating budget.
There's a request to, increase the town clerk expense budget by $11,600. And the reason for that is, we, need, particularly the town clerk's office, a, machine to open mail, which is all done manually currently, as well as, timestamp the mail. This is required for things such as election ballots when they're received. This 11,600 is based upon, estimates. We, solicited, the town clerk's office actually solicited quotes. And that's the cost that we have, determined. The reason that we're asking to do it now is, we'd like to have it purchased and in place before the next town election, which is in April, which of course April is before the annual town meeting in 2026, and hence the request for the funding now.
So will that result in the town clerk's office hiring less? workers at all? Is there some reduction in their operating budget?
The town clerk anticipates that there will be some savings in times in terms of some of the part-time use and more importantly, on the day-to-day, that her staff can do more productive things than filling out envelopes. But she does anticipate some savings. By buying this equipment.
It's increased productivity as opposed to eliminating
Right,
That's
the
not
jobs. Yeah.
fewer variable cuts. I'll make a motion to recommend approval, adoption of Article 6, amending 2026 operating budget. Town clerk,
It's the fewest amendments we've had in this time of year. So that means we did a good job last
Mhm.
in May. Barry made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ally. Any question, discussion, or comment? Hearing none, coming to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we move to Article 7. Article 8. Do you want to talk about them together, Dave, or?
Yes, please.
So the sewer enterprise fund budget and water enterprise fund budget adjustments,
Yes.
due to the MWRA assessments on both.
Yep, both of these were, have been anticipated, and we knew that we'd be amending budget, in October. The amount that was appropriated was a level dollar for both the sewer and water, assessments, that we paid in FY 25, and that's what we budgeted in FY 26. With the actual assessment and the actual assessments based, there are several factors. One, of course, the MWRA's own budget. Two, the Needham's percentage share of the sewer system for the prior year. And three, the changes in other communities' sewer flows. So the three variables that impact what the eventual assessment will be for each member community. The sewer assessment is $317,676 more, a 4.3% increase. Pretty much on par with the overall increase in the MWRA sewer assessment overall. The MWRA water assessment, that was an increase of $563,298 for a 46.4% increase in the budget. And that is primarily all due to that Needham used much more MWRA water in calendar year 2024 than did in calendar year 2023. As well as Needham's share of the overall water use also increased.
It was a warm sun.
Yes, it was. It was much more, and most of the water use when we do use the MWRA water is driven by irrigation.
So starting in, I guess this will be starting in July, we're billing based on these increased rates, correct?
With the bill based upon what we anticipated the increase would be. In this particular case, because we got notice in June what the assessment increases would be, the rate increases the board approved were based upon these higher assessments.
So my point is we'll capture these increased expenses through receipts over the course of fiscal 26.
And this
Even though the usage was already done.
But we don't pay for it until now. We're not allowed to.
Got it. So we're charging people for their usage in 2024, the new rate.
We get billed for our use of water in calendar year 24, 18 months later.
Got it.
There's no way
so
to retroactively
got it.
go
So
after
we're
everybody for their water use, so.
And
It's the.
so now we're increasing the
Paying
rate
Piper or something.
to make it all even out.
So if people move from town that use the water, they, you know, they miss the rating.
They got a good deal in 2024 using all our water and
Yes.
everybody else.
Make
has to
sure
pay
your
for
water,
it.
if you're selling your house,
Got it.
get your lawn really green.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have to
I'm
pay
gonna
for
say
it.
shut it all off.
Yeah, exactly, just go crazy.
This mechanism is exactly what we told town meeting in May we were gonna do anyways. We do this every year.
Sometimes it goes down, but this year they're up.
So if we change to these numbers, the expectation is when we do the next budget, we'll level funds this.
Yeah,
at
this will
the
be,
upper
this will be the
level.
starting point. You'll see these numbers as
Yeah.
our FY 27 budget submission. Because it's the same thing every year, because we don't actually know the assessments until after town meeting has already voted the budgets.
Incidentally, what year was the pool class accident? And was the pool drained and then refilled? And does that contribute to water usage?
It does contribute to.
It was
water
2024.
usage. 2024.
Sulfur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the 500,000.
No.
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 Fill the pool. Any further questions or discussion on these two articles, which are amending the enterprise funds, sewer and water, Article 7 and 8?
We recommended that together. Right.
That's
I'll
Barry's motion.
make a motion to adopt Articles 7 and 8, amending the sewer and water enterprise fund budget.
I'll second it.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, coming to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those pass unanimously. Our recommendations of Articles 7 and 8. And that'll leave for our last one for tonight, Article 9.
Mr. Chairman, the figure that appears in the draft warrant will be different, and it's, and that is because we had received some extra receipts that I was unaware of when I had drafted the article. The actual number that will be going to town meeting will be $268,200. And hence, it's such a significant amount, the cable TV was really concerned that they would have to wait until May in order to get that additional money. Some of this is the capital contribution that the cable TVs, the cable providers need to pay for, you know, cable to improve its capital infrastructure.
So if people cut their cord, right?
It's a declining revenue source for them. And hence
But
it's
you-
that much tighter.
But the amount, 260 is a lot. How's that compare to what it's been past years?
Oh, well, they're it's generating about $670,000 a year, in monies received for Needham Cable. But long ago, it used to be, $800,000-900,000. So it has, declined. I know, this is not specific to this article, but I know, there's some talk of charging streaming services a fee, which will then funnel through, that's national legislation that's working, but that's one of the things Washington's looking at in order to keep, public access television viable.
What's in our fund now? Do you know what the balance is?
268,000.
Oh, that's the balance. We're just giving them everything we got.
Yes, that's how it works.
That's how it
We
works.
rescind
Okay.
what we pay.
All right, I didn't know.
Technically, we'll have 23 cents more. We budget by whole dollars.
Put it in the stabilization fund.
It is in a special fund. Reserved specifically for this. This is why it actually identifies the funding sources, the PEG access.
Right.
And people related fund.
And so it goes from that fund to,
It gets appropriated, then we cut a check to Needham Cable.
All right.
any questions on this one?
Well, I'd recommend adoption of Article 9. Appropriates public education and governmental programming.
Okay.
And the sum as amended,
268, 200.
what you said.
And says motion made and seconded by Barry, seconded by Carol. Any further discussion, question or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. We're done with that. So that's what we have for tonight. Just run through anything with everyone that was. We can have some finance committee updates as well. So if you look at the town meeting warrant, we have recommended articles 1, 2, 3, and 4. Article 5 is subject to ongoing discussions about the Stephen Palmer Center that won't be done in time for our meeting next week.
And the first meeting of the committee is not until the 15th of October, so I guess the committee is not opining on this at all.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of questions going on, right? So the point is on it, so that article has not been acted on us, and I don't think that there's gonna be something for us to act on next week, from what I understand, Dave.
My understanding, and
But the select board's gonna have to speak to it, and they're not gonna be here next week because they meet at the same time.
correct.
So Article 5.
I should say there is an executive
There is
session
yeah,
on this issue on Friday,
yeah,
so we might have some better guidance next week.
Okay. So let me just hold that as a placeholder, because I want to see if there's gonna be enough for us to meet on next Wednesday, so just. Article 5 is a potential one, we haven't gotten to it yet, that would be a potential one to act on. Or to have, start a discussion on. Article 6, 7. 8. 9, we've all taken action on. Article 10 and 11 both have to do with the quiet zone. And there is a meeting of the quiet zone study committee tomorrow night, which is the first meeting of that committee since May. And so I'm gonna be an interested listener and participant at that. So that meeting is taking place. The select board has not discussed these articles yet. And so they're not gonna be in a place for us to discuss on September 24th. So more in tune on those. I'll at least know more after the meeting tomorrow night, and I can let people know some of the things I hear. But I don't think that there's anything that we can do on that. Unfortunately, we're ready, but other people aren't ready for us on the 24th. So we're gonna have to postpone that. Article 12 is the dog and kennel licensing, and actually Louise the town clerk is speaking on that one.
Yes, she will be speaking to the article.
And so we have that on for October 8th. And then we did Article 13, we're gonna meet again on October 8th, and we'll, the select board will have acted, and we can take a vote on that one. At that point in time, we'll be interested to see if they did anything about the enforcement section or not between now and then. And then Articles 14 and 15 are gonna either are going to or have been withdrawn.
They have been.
They have been withdrawn. So, with all that being the case, I don't think, there's a need, for everyone with all your busy schedules to meet next Wednesday night. Just due to the timing and where other people are with things, again, not we could meet, and we're ready to meet, but others aren't. So, my recommendation, if you guys all agree, is that our next meeting, and then October first is the Jewish holiday. So we would meet on October eighth, is our next meeting to discuss the remaining warrant articles. People okay with that?
Sounds good.
All right. And then, finance committee updates.
Can I just ask a question
Yeah.
on, what was the reason for withdrawing Article 15? Is there nothing to be appropriated?
It's not free cash.
Not that there's no free cash right now.
Yes, I should clarify that. No free cash has been certified. Yes.
Right now, we haven't got the certification from the state, so it's not, there's no available free cash.
Okay.
There will be.
Dave is still here. He hasn't absconded.
We almost got it. Okay, finance committee updates. I think everyone, actually, Paul will probably take longer, so why don't we just start first with Vision?
Don't plan on taking.
Paul, it's gonna be longer?
No, we had a meeting last week in this very room. It was chock full, become a very popular meeting now. Coming out of it, there is now a published timeline as to how this is envisioned to go forward. The consultants were in the meeting last week. There's going to be, I think, a couple of touch points with the select board. So basically, nothing's going to happen here unless the select board votes it at the end of the day. We did see preliminary look at the three variations of the theme that are in response to what the select board has asked for. Standpoint of least impactful versus big impact. I don't see many bike lanes on these plans. These plans, though, are on a website. First, you should read them now. If anybody is interested, you can look it up and see. But this is a long process, and in this timeline, from a standpoint of talking about funding and construction, they're saying that's 2 to 3 years out. One of the statements, though, that did hit me a little bit relative to the question of funding is that they are stockpiling Chapter 90 funds and then maybe some town meeting requests later. So the only question is, well, how much are they stockpiling? And what other choices are being made as to not to do something? But again, that's all in the purview of the select board, because the way town meeting votes Chapter 90, it basically says, here you go, it's all yours. So, but you know, it's just a question of
amount given or
No.
approximate amount given?
nothing.
He says,
It would be nice to know what balances there are relative to Chapter 90 funds and the usage of them versus what, but again, it's all in the purview of the select board.
Town manager wrote a memo in April about chapter 90 funds. I can forward it to the committee.
They could do that? You know, one of the interesting sort of on the quiet zone thing is that, again, there's been no decision to go forward with it, but if you include a Great Plain Avenue, I haven't seen any consideration of how this conflicts or doesn't conflict with what might be done for the road configurations and how you sync those up and whether people are thinking about syncing them up and where you would be, you know, double spending or doing work and then having to, that would jeopardize that. It doesn't seem like there's a interplay between those two.
There's an acknowledgement that that project is out there, but as you just said, they're just admiring the issue right now, so.
And I thought I read, I don't know, maybe it was in the News Observer, maybe I should have known anyway, but isn't there another light study or light project that's actually about to begin up near the same area where the Envision project would affect?
Yeah, I think that they separately are pursuing a resyncing of the traffic lights on Great Plain Avenue in the exact same place, but that was happening anyways,
It was
so they're gonna
happening.
do that first. then I guess they're gonna have to relook at traffic to see if it's better before they.
Well, I thought that that was the catalyst. I thought that it started with the resyncing of the lights, and that was the catalyst for Envision.
I think
but-
there was that, and there was also some stormwater things, or they need to do some. I know that there's work that needs to be done. I think you might be right, but it sounded when I heard one of the meetings, like that sinking of the lights project is gonna go forward without decisions on Envision at this.
Okay.
But don't take my.
And was there any mention of, you mentioned that the budgeting might be years off, but what about the pilot?
They have to decide whether the select board will decide if a pilot is desired. And they've got still the grant from the federal government, and I think I mentioned last meeting. The requirement under the Biden administration for a road diet and visiting bike lanes has been removed by the Trump administration. So that stricture isn't there anymore.
So the funds weren't removed, just the requirement that they have a bike lane associated with it.
Good question, but they've not said that the funds have been pulled back.
The requirement now is in lieu of bike lanes, are gonna have golf cart lanes.
Are there any state funds associated with this project that would require a road diet?
Not that has been mentioned. Other than
What's
just
been
your-
fascinating, just over the last 3 weeks with back to school and everything and more people going to the office. I think I'm seeing it in Boston, I'm seeing it up here, that traffic is clearly, the diet is not a word for what's happening out there.
Explosion.
Bad.
It's an explosion, it's not a diet, there's no dieting going on anywhere.
But the only diet is, I'm telling you, on Needham Street. No one is taking those bike lanes
Really?
still, yeah. What, I mean, I spend 45 minutes almost. in that
You never
street.
see anyone go by you?
Every once in a while, like down my whole stretch, one or two.
They're like Uber people or something, like Uber Eats people or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Paul? on
That's
that?
it.
Stephen Palmer, nothing?
I just got an email yesterday, today, that the first meeting is on October 15th at 6 o'clock, which I actually can't be at, so I will listen to the meeting and let you guys know what happens. But it sounds like they're not convening before this article, so they're obviously making some decisions, so maybe this is a post. Monday.
So on Pollard, Steve was at a meeting where I was at the other night, Joe was at one that he called in, last week, that was at Pollard. So there's meetings taking place and, the first submission, as I outlined in our meeting 2 weeks ago, was made to was submitted to the MSBA. And now they're moving on to the next part of it, which is to, pick one of the 7 options. And what's been surprising to me is that I thought we had a process between now and December to go through to pick the 7 options. And all of a sudden now it's being told that, well, we'd really like to see if we could pick one of the options sooner rather than later, so the MSBA doesn't have to consider ones that we're not gonna be considering.
Is it one option or are they just trying to pick the general location?
Well, there's a couple, they have questions and you can word the questions however you want them. The way that this was posed the other night was the first question is site selection.
Right.
Whether the Pollard site or the
Right.
Fabio site. And then they have that as the first one, and I don't think there's an agreement necessarily that that's the first question, but that's one of the questions. Then the second question is grade configuration. Whether 6, 7, and 8 or 7 and 8 is the second question. The third question, I think, is new construction versus addition and renovation.
If it's a
And there was
7, 8, right?
yeah, and I think there was a fourth, but I'm not sure if it was, but those were kind of the key.
Do they want everything to be decided at that meeting?
Well, that's the
So
whole point. So
yeah.
there, so a request came to have a summit of all the boards.
Right.
To see if a consensus could be reached with respect to, eliminating some or all of the options. I haven't seen an agenda. I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't know how it can work, to be honest with you.
Yes, sounds ambitious.
And I don't know that, for example, what role we can play other than to ask questions. Because there's no decisions, yet. Steve, made a comment at the meeting the other night about, we have these options, but there are other options out there as well? And for example, is there an option of in a less expensive school, and what that might look like and exploring it? And the question was raised, there was no answer given. But that is an option that isn't on the table right now.
Well, couldn't any option then be re-engineered as a lesser expensive version of itself for your?
Oh, yeah, and I think I would hope so, but I feel
Yeah.
like it's, it's the train's going, right? And my point that I was making in the comment period was there's $130 million option that no one says will do anything other than we have to have it because it's required to show what would have just,
That's
repair.
painting.
Right.
roof,
Right,
but-
the
130
base repair.
So what we're really doing is we're jumping, then the next option is, 260 million and then the preferred option, which ironically is the least expensive overall option, is one that could be $330 million. Because what we're really talking about is almost $500 million worth of school building projects, because they're so intertwined with Mitchell. And various renovations to different moving schools. So one of the things that, John pointed out, in the meeting on Monday was there's this focus on, let's make a decision. Let's decide what we can eliminate, but yet there's no decision criteria to do that. But what are we basing the decision on?
It just seems to me like they're basing the decision on the options that they don't want to consider in the first place.
Probably, but that's not, right, obviously, that's not.
No,
right, no way to go through a
But I was,
$1 billion
I was thinking,
evaluation.
I was assuming that the MSBA would require more than that.
Right,
The MSBA, I was assuming that the MSBA would want a typical cost analysis of a few feasible scenarios.
Isn't part of the required process that we present them with like, an addition renovation and a new school option
Right,
and
so
the
that's
different site and
That's
all
the
of
part
these
that
things.
surprised me, is that's what we did.
We did that, but then we're gonna be
Right,
like,
now-
just kidding, we
Right.
don't actually wanna consider any of those, that.
Well, exactly, and then we would do it
But
within
it-
2 weeks.
It
just
seems like that would potentially circumvent or, negate what we're required to do by MSBA. I don't know, the read that I got on this meeting was that they want the other committees to either decide if DeFazio is included or not included.
Right.
That was the
Right.
undertone in,
I
to
get
me,
it.
but I didn't get to listen to the meeting on
I
Monday.
get a sense that, well, obviously, the school committee strongly is in favor of 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And it's, especially now that Park and Rec, at least the last we heard, seems to be not interested in having that at DeFazio, then can we, and I'm not saying this is my position, I'm just saying this sort of message I'm hearing, then, well, let's just get rid of DeFazio as an option, then we can just focus on, do we do 6, 7, 8, or 7 and 8 at Pollard? And come to a decision that way. I think it seems like that's what they're trying to get to.
But again, aren't we circumventing the process as required by the MSBA and probably the due diligence that should be required before we make this kind of decision?
I
Right.
think
For us to just like, how can we make a recommendation based on what we have that you should include or exclude an option?
Right.
I just don't feel like we have enough
No, and
information.
I don't think we're being asked that. That's why the whole point of the summit, I don't quite understand it. It's
Right,
like,
that's,
because we certainly can't make that decision based on where we are, and nor ultimately there's a recommendation, because the ultimate decision is made by the school
right,
building committee,
yeah.
which is the PBBC plus the school committee member plus the principal and Pollard. Those are the 9 people who vote.
And that's all true, but we have to justify or not something for an override in front of town meeting. So in order to do that work, we have to have more than, in fairness to the taxpayers, we need more than one plan.
Right.
Agreed.
That I like in seeing the memo or whatnot that was sent out about the meeting, my opinion was I would not like to exclude options at this point because I don't think that we've fully vetted what those options look like. And I understand that it would be easier for them to dive deeper into one or two or whatnot, but to me, the whole point was that we had to have all of these and we should give it the process that it deserves.
I don't know what our committee's role is or can be in shaping this, but from a pure process perspective, there really is no, at least from my perspective, a decision-making matrix or a scoring methodology that really makes any sense in evaluating the options. The color-coded option, there's no weighting. There's many overlaps of, so many positives are related to unification and everything that comes with unification.
Lots of green there.
Lots of green, but nowhere have I seen that unification is a priority relative to expanding elementary school or with respect to getting children out of the 50% red circled environment at Mitchell, or, so what are the priorities and what are the weightings of these measures? So it's sort of my concern is that it gets out in front so far and that it's the cheapest option, it's the best option, and based on what, and no real criteria, to measure that against. And along with that, and we sort of talked about this before, but a $200 million option, as an example, adds $70 million to a base repair. And I would think you could do a lot for $70 million. I'm not sure what there would be trade-offs to other options, and maybe it's not the right answer, but I think to the point, Carol, of being able to put something in front of town meeting to say, 200 million just doesn't do it. Here are all the major shortfalls, or maybe it does, and it frees up $100 million. It can go to something else. Mitchell, right? So when we look at it in total and the best resources, use of resources for the town overall, there's $100 million that can be, maybe some things are nice to have as opposed to must-haves. But there's not been any of that evaluation. So I don't know, to come back to, I don't know what our role can be in requesting that, formally requesting that.
I think it would be helpful to also know, like, the MSBA has a lot of requirements that, that we're required to put in, and that they won't fund it if it's not at a certain standard. And what are the costs of those? And does what they're paying us back cover kind of because I would suspect that if we kind of went with this watered down version, like I know the base repair, the MSBA would not participate in. The $130,000, we wouldn't get anything from them.
Right.
So at what, what's the weight of their contribution versus their requirements of us? If you're gonna start looking at,
Right.
half, but that doesn't sound like that's part of the process at all.
I don't think
So-
there's much that they require that we wouldn't want.
I think we're augmenting their requirements.
You think we're going beyond?
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh,
see,
yeah.
that
I think they
would be
I'm just gonna
helpful.
use an example that they require in their base, 2 spaces for occupational therapy. I'll just use that as an example. We have 6 in this 240,000.
But then I
square
also
feet.
heard that like the library is smaller than what they
Right.
recommend, or like there's some things
some
that
things
we're
that are-
doing less of. So
We're
it
doing
would,
much more of
Some things,
specialty spaces
Okay.
than is, and then to capture that, they're taking away from the libraries is one of.
and I think it would be helpful for us to know that, how that compares to what the standards are that other towns and schools are doing and at what cost.
Right.
And maybe that's where you do some cost engineering, right?
Right. Well,
As opposed to just saying, build me a new school that's half the
and
cost and see what happens.
I'm not a building engineer by any stretch, but I found it interesting that in the renovation, the 7 and 8 renovation of Pollard, they use less than half the existing space. Of the existing footprint. So like, obviously you wouldn't reuse the modulars, but. And I'm sure there's some reason for it, I don't know what the reason is for it, but they use less than half the existing footprint. So. If I went to a designer and said, I only have $200 million to spend on this, build me the best 2-grade school you can for $200 million, what would that look like? Would they use more of the existing footprint? Because the renovation cost to the existing footprint is about half the cost on a square foot basis than, at least it's listed, than new construction. So is there, to engineering, is there a $200 million version? Again, I'm not saying it's the right version. I don't know if it's the right version, but we don't even have anything to compare it to compare the others to right now.
My suspicion on that question is that the parts that they're adding onto are like, they cannot augment the existing space to meet the requirements of their educational plan because the classrooms are too small or whatnot. Because the reason that the renovation area is so inexpensive is because they're just lightly renovating it. They're not doing a lot to it. So I don't know if they lightly renovated the whole school, they would get what they're looking for. And then you're back to maybe no MSBA participation. But good questions to ask.
So I know it's a Thursday night, people were invited, people have their own schedules, and if they can go, they can go, if not, that's totally understood. And I view us, those of us who can be there, as there to listen and there to ask questions that we feel are appropriate to ask. But we're not there as having a consensus or a decision or anything like that to be made, and I'll make sure that I'm clear in expressing that. But I think that we should be listeners and questioners, is how I view what we can do with that summit.
I can't be there on Thursday because I have a work thing that I can't reschedule. Do you think though it's the role of the finance committee? Obviously, they don't really have a vote, but can you should we be sending the school building committee a letter kind of dictating our preference?
I don't think we have enough information to.
So maybe that's what our preference is, that we don't have enough information. We don't want to opine or weigh in.
There's nothing in front of us to prefer. I
Right.
think right now, there's clearly not enough information.
No, what I'm saying is the process. I'm not saying a scenario.
Process.
I'm saying that we would prefer a process that vets various scenarios in a meaningful way. That's all I'm saying. Because I think we're all struggling with making a decision on one plan. It might be a great plan, or it might be $100 million, in excess, but we will not know that. And so all we'll be doing if we are presented with one plan is opining around the edges as to how it will be financed or what we can upzone to raise the tax revenue to get there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if we can comment on the decision-making process and, what are the requirements that we're measuring against? What are those priorities? What are those weightings?
Right, for example, when you look at it, they have one category for cost. And in other categories, and so, and all the costs are horrible, right?
Right.
But there's a lot more to it than that, than just saying that, that's one thing. It's because whether you look at it at the cost of the project or whether you look at it what the cost of the taxpayer is gonna be, there's different parts. I mean, and the cost of the taxpayer has to be a part of what the cost of the project is. You have to understand it sounds great in the abstract, let's build a $300 million school, but we need to know what it's gonna cost all of us for that to be built. And that needs to be part of the discussion all the way, as opposed to just coming in at the end.
Well, certainly will be when it comes down to a town vote.
Right. Right, but you can get caught up now in saying, well, let's go for the $300 million school when that's not part of your consideration. Right? And I think that's one thing when you just have one line for a cost
Right.
that, because under their matrix, you could say cost to taxpayer, cost to not being able to do other projects.
Right.
And you could have 4 different things under that aren't in this matrix, right? And those are things that are all need to be part of, the decision making as
Right.
you're stating it.
And I was reading through the educational plan portion of the submission, and there's lots of language about preferences, but I did note that there was a clear statement that strong curriculum, and we are delivering that curriculum today. So that, I think the school committee, teachers do a fantastic job educating. And it would be nice perhaps to have all 6 grades together, excuse me, all 3 grades together. What does that really do incrementally relative to where we are with Mitchell on a building that is not gonna last 10 years? There's an assumption that we'll just take care of it and whatever it is, have the new building up in 10 years. And I would imagine by looking at the reports on the building, there's gonna be more money that's gonna have to be put into that between now and then that's not being taken into consideration.
That's kind of the problem with this whole process,
Right.
right? Is that it's just not just one school that
Right.
we talked
Right.
about. There's multiple things that are gonna happen regardless whichever decision is made.
Right.
If we do a 6, 7, 8 at Pollard, then High Rock is available for other purposes. Potentially, and that may make the cost down the road less or not. Those are the types of things that, for me, I really want to look at the whole picture of the next 20 years, all the, to be able to accommodate all the kids in this town effectively. What is it gonna cost to have buildings at a certain standard that they should have?
And what are the timing priorities of that? Again, if the Mitchell is in the kind of condition that the all red, 50% red circles. If you look at it just in the report of the structure, Pollard looks a heck of a lot better than Mitchell,
Right.
It does.
right? And it's had some recent investments in it. I'm not saying it's anything close to what anybody wants it to be by any stretch. But if you're just looking at the current structure, and you're also looking at expanding elementary school space, perhaps fixing Mitchell and making a bigger Mitchell school and doing that first. And I know there's swing space and et cetera, that goes into a decision like that, but that's part of the prioritization that I was referring to. So what's
Part of that
really
was
the
already-
most important?
That part of that was already done in theory to get to this point. I
Right.
made the decision for Pollard to be the first.
Primarily because of swing space.
I forget, it goes back a ways, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost, pretty much. And you gotta remember, that decision is not count decision. It was not a voted decision. It was not a
Right.
decision of the finance committee. It's the school committee. And they and only they made that decision to have Pollard go first.
And it was heavily weighted towards the 6, 7, 8 unification.
And how does trying to change something like that weigh into the MSBA process? Because again, we're already working, can you pause an MSBA project? So we would just,
Yeah,
if we were to say, we want Mitchell to go first, in a hypothetical world, we would essentially walk away from the participation at Pollard and have to reapply for MSBA with Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a hard case to make.
Yeah.
If I'm the MSBA and you walk me into that building across the street from Steve's house, any of us walk in there tomorrow, it's
not great.
it's appalling.
Yeah.
And the school committee member said that in the meeting,
Yeah.
their meeting 2 weeks ago, and it is, it's remarkable to me, the priority decision that was made. It's not one I would have made, but it's the one that's been made.
But even if there was an opportunity to, again, if you can again, I'm not saying it's the right answer, but if there was a $200 million option that made sense, that freed up $100 million, then maybe Pollard can, I mean, maybe Mitchell can start sooner. I don't know, but I'm just, it seems like this horrible building that's gonna need lots of cash is gonna be just stuck out there for a pretty long period of time. And
Especially
maybe
if
it's not a priority, but if it's not, then it's not. If that's really not a priority, then let's measure based on what is, but I think until we know what those real priorities are, it's hard to evaluate options.
So are you saying though that it would be feasible that you could shift the MSBA funding from Pollard to?
No, you'd have
You have
to.
to start
reapply.
through the application process. You,
We've
push it
spent the
back.
money on Pollard and, you know, all I'm saying is that it cannot not be done. I'm not saying it would be something that would be easy. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, the money that there would be, you know, having us spend, and if our town makes a different decision, I don't see how we could be criticized for that. You're just would be run into the timing issues of it all.
One thing that was interesting from the meeting as well, is a comment about why we should be we collectively, the super, whatever the meeting, the summit, why we want to, you know, it's important that we come away with that by eliminating one of these options, because we're running out of time, and if we take any more time, it could cost us another $10 million. We should be looking at more things. We should be taking it more time. John was making the point of, well, I don't even think we have enough information to know what to get rid of.
Right.
And then there was some comments, well, it's just gonna cost us more money. I think we know what we need to know. It could cost us $10 million more. Well, isn't it worth, if you're looking at,
Right, but maybe
400
you
plus
eliminate the option that was
you know?
$10 million less that you can look
Exactly.
into.
right, so, but.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
Well, and yeah,
So do people know, so you're not gonna be able to be there?
I can be there.
You can
I'll be there.
Okay, good. No,
I'll be there.
too. Okay, so
They haven't indicated that there's like a vote and we're not planning to be a part of a
There's
vote.
nothing we can vote on.
Yeah,
So the answer is no.
yeah.
And I think that some of the things we talked about tonight, if they turn to us and ask us, this is what they're gonna hear. And it wouldn't be the focus on Mitchell. Mitchell should be going
No,
first.
no.
It's about, you know, how can you eliminate options with not enough information and the things that have to be studied to be able to eliminate options.
And is there a way to spend less than $260 million if a 7-8 is a viable option?
Okay. Anything further for tonight? We have a motion to adjourn.
Sure. I'll move to
There's a motion made tonight, Barry.
Second.
Is there a second? A second. Seconded by Paul. Any discussions? Hearing none, coming to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. I think we'll have to meet. Do we have to call a meeting?